so many haters out there. People hating that manual transmissions are going away, that EVs are being forced upon us, that their favorite car brand is about to become part of some Chinese conglomerate. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. The thing is, I'm not convinced that it's all doom and gloom. At least not yet. Guys, on this Dodge Durango Hellcat, proof that we are still very far away from the automotive apocalypse. And I'm not the biggest fan of huge, heavy SUVs, but you got to admire something that has 710 horsepower with massive, look at those front brakes. Good God. Well, it's certainly going to need it, because you're going to need all the brake you can get to haul this 7,000 pound SUV to a stop. And purportedly it does 180 miles an hour top end. I don't think we're going to test that out today, but we certainly are going to see what the Durango Hellcat is all about. I'm excited. Let's hop in. Let's find out. All right, the 2023 Dodge Durango Hellcat. If you were expecting anything else on startup, you're in the wrong place. That's what 6.2 liters of supercharged Hemi sounds like. And I'm sure it's gonna get a whole lot better as we get underway. I do want to bring up the menu here, which I think is very clearly laid out, so we can explore some of the different settings for street versus sport. I'm not going to put it in track mode, not today. There is a launch mode as well, and I'm sure somewhere on YouTube somebody's already done that. They figured it out and you can watch it. But we are going to explore the difference between street and sport, and I just want to give a little bit of backdrop before we set out. So this is the third generation of Durango, and there wasn't always an SRT Hellcat. If you go back to 2010 when the third gen was launched, yes, this thing is really, really ancient. It was being produced alongside the then Jeep Grand Cherokee, which is not the current Jeep Grand Cherokee. Again, tells you how old this is. But the SRT Hellcat only came about in 21 when then Fiat Chrysler Automotive, which is now Stellantis, but FCA said, we're going to make a super duper limited edition Durango called the Hellcat. And they didn't specify an exact number. They only said they would make less than 2,000 of them, and everybody said that's incredible. And you know, would be collectors and people looking to, you know, store these things and make money on them all gobbled them up. And then fast forward to 2023 and Dodge said, no, we were actually just kidding about that. There's going to be more Hellcat Durangos that we're going to make. So sorry. And they all but threw away that promise and burned it up on a postcard. So we don't know how many more, but I guess if we're enthusiasts, we should just be glad that somebody's even making these things anymore. So let's set out of the parking lot here. Let's get this on some roads so we can actually hear it and experience it. I haven't driven a Durango probably, man, I don't know. I must have rented one of these things, but you know how the rental ones are. It was probably not very good. So I'm just gonna start with a clean slate here and wipe away any former memories that are still lingering. I think that is the stock exhaust, and wow, that's a lot of noise. Not saying it's bad noise, it's just a lot. Stealthy, this certainly is not. Even at idle, you can just hear the baritone rumble underneath of us. It's clearly the engine is just always pervasive in this car, no matter how you're driving it. And I still am in the most relaxed of all these settings here. That was part throttle, maybe a quarter, not even. It's really fast. And you can hear just a little bit of supercharger whine that sits on top of that baritone V8 sound. You have the backfire as it shifts through the gears. I mean, this would be hard not to love. Would it get old after a while? I don't know. I'd have to spend a lot more time with this to really determine that. But right now, I'm liking it. And I will tell you that I am partial to big V8 motors. Not always the biggest fan of supercharged V8 motors, but I am liking this one. So I'm going to switch into track mode. Not track mode, sport mode. Don't want to do track. Not here. Don't have access to a road course. So we're in sport for across the board for all the settings. And we're going to get it into some turns to see how this copes. Foiled by the Kia EV6 and another EV6 in front of us, and what's probably the most ironic thing to ever happen on a test drive. So I'm just gonna have to sit back here. Fortunately, I won't be able to really haul through these turns, but I'm gonna take my time. It's really fast. Surprise, surprise. We are back. Such are the brute accelerative forces of this truck that it literally launched my phone out of its makeshift mount. So we're gonna set out again, but I will tell you that acceleration on this truck is demonic. It is brutally fast, and I think unless you drive a 1,000 horsepower Tesla X every day, it would be hard not to be impressed and not to have a smile on your face. That was full throttle back there, and it was just brutal, especially the launch. It just hooked up and it went. That again, that was not track mode, that was sport mode, but it's really impressive. Not as impressive as you would expect through the one corner that I did have the opportunity to throw it around. It did an admirable job of keeping its composure and not getting out of sorts. But there's really, again, just no disguising the fact that this is a incredibly heavy SUV. Even the brakes, which look massive, don't feel 100% confidence inspiring as you're laying into them. So I would say in my limited drive here that this is probably more of a 5 or 6/10 SUV. It's going to feel great in a straight line, but you're not going to bring this to the track and do hot laps with it. There's better vehicle choices for that kind of driving. But if you're looking for something that's going to haul your family around, and you know, when the family's not in the car with you, you want to have a lot of fun. I was going to say a little bit of fun, but this is definitely a lot of fun. I would be hard pressed to think of too many other options that are this insane. And quite honestly, if I owned this car, I would probably lose my license. I'm more of a drive a slow car fast kind of guy. So I'm trying to process all my thoughts here. It's a lot. It's definitely a lot. But let me back this in and then let it cool down, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking. So let's think back to the era of muscle cars when you had huge displacement V8s that were, you know, getting single-digit fuel economy, and everybody said we would never see anything like that again. Well, here we are, and guess what? We have a huge, big displacement, fuel-slurping V8 and a truck, and it's 2024. So all those forecasts were wrong. Do I think that vehicles like this will continue to be made? Yes and no. I think we'll see a return of something like this in the future, but it's going to be in a different form. Clearly, with Euro 7 regs and CAFE standards being what they are, this type of vehicle cannot continue to exist, not in its current form. I think we'll see electrified versions of big displacement motors making a return in the future that will be far more fuel efficient. And I think we'll also see different fuel sources powering these motors. Porsche has done a lot of work on synth fuels, both for, you know, primarily for motorsport, but I'm really excited to see what that's going to bring for passenger vehicles that you and I can buy. We have hydrogen that's being worked on by Toyota, albeit in fuel cell form. But, you know, there was a lot of work done by BMW back in the 80s and 90s on combustion powered motors using hydrogen. So maybe we'll see that make a return. But I think we have to keep an open mind, and I don't think that this is the last hurrah for large V8 cars. I really don't. They will go away. For how long, who knows? How many more Hellcats will Stellantis make? Only Stellantis can answer that question. But more than anything else, we should be happy as enthusiasts, happy that we can even buy a truck like this right now. So if you want one, now's your time. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Thanks. See you for the next one.